Woody's World brought to you by Shannon Steakhouse. I keep coming back to draft and development. Draft and development. We're talking about the Nuggets draft and development. I think if you look around the league, who's going to win the NBA championship? Cleveland Cavaliers. So they drafted LeBron and they developed him. They let him go off some and develop and win a championship or two, and then they brought him back. So draft and development. If you look at teams in the NBA, just for instance, or if you look at teams in Major League Baseball, if you look at teams in the National Hockey League and you look at teams in the National Football League, most of them don't draft and develop. And those that do, Green Bay Packers are a big draft and develop team, Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's the decision the Rockies, and I'm going to say this without raising my voice today, that's the decision the Rockies have made over the years, and they keep saying that's their philosophy, and it's going to work, and it's going to work. I went through their last 500. That takes a little while. Their last 500 draft choices. What would you guess out of 500? I mean, if you pick peanuts out of a barrel, you could probably pick 50 out of 500. They were pretty good. Of their last draft choice, look at the roster the Rockies have now. They just brought up a guy I'd never heard of, really. And I think I pay attention, but Oldberg, I think that's how you pronounce his name. And I went, where did he come from? Was he off the street? Was he one of those guys who said, I could pitch for you guys, give me a shot? And they, it's like out of a movie where they tried him one day at Coors Field and said, yeah, we're going to put you on the team. He actually was drafted by the Rockies in about the 25th round. Who knew? He had Tommy John surgery in high school, in college. And he's the first player ever drafted by Major League Baseball out of the Yukon baseball program. So now I know all about him. He's had Tommy John surgery. If you think about the Rockies, Bencourt's had Tommy John surgery. Tyler
twice.
Chapman is having his second one. De La Rosa's coming back Monday, and he had. I'm beginning to think that Tommy John surgery might be the best thing in the world for all pitchers, because I think it makes their arm stronger, and they can pitch 8 or 9 years after they have Tommy John surgery. Going back out of the weeds onto the fairway, the point is, of the last 10 years, the 500 draft choices that the Rockies have had, they've missed on like 490 of those. There have been 9 players that actually are a part of the team or were just a part of the team. They put Rex Brothers back in the minor leagues, and they replaced him with Oldberg, who was a draft pick. So they're still in the same position. Arenado, everybody agrees he's all-star. Tulowitzki is a most valuable player type. Second baseman came from another franchise. First baseman came from another franchise. The starting catcher came from another franchise. The left fielder is one of theirs. That's 3. The center fielder is one of theirs. That's 4. The right fielder, even though the owner of the team counts him as one of their draft and developed players. He started with Arizona. He's not a draft and developed player. So that's 4 players that are, most of their backups are also from other teams. Pitchers, Eddie Butler, Chris Fredericks in the
Christian
bullpen.
Friedrich.
Bergman, he's from the draft. That's 3 more, 7. And Oldberg, that's 8. That's not very good. The way I figured it out was that it averages, of the 500 players, it's about 0.11% that work. That's not very good. That wouldn't be very good. I'd be out of a job. I think everybody here would be out of a job if you succeeded let's say 1%. You succeeded 1% of the time. You were selling full of brushes. You'd be on the street selling those brushes to dogs on the street. You just wouldn't work. So they're right about 1% of the time. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. That is really bad. I think I'd come up with a different philosophy. My philosophy might be, let's take that money that I'm spending on those people and spend it on 5 pitchers and try and go with that, because it worked kind of for Kansas City last year. And I'm not raising my voice here. I'm not trying to put down the Rockies. I'm just stating the fact here. Their draft and development has been awful. If you keep saying that after 15 years, I would think I'd come up with a different philosophy. I would maybe go get, I said this before they came to town. I saw the Cuban Olympic team, and I thought they played the American Olympic team in Old Mile High Stadium, and I wrote a column back in 1992 saying they just sign all the guys from Cuba. Well, I still think they should do that. Just sign guys from Cuba. Sign people from Puerto Rico or Venezuela. Oh, They've got a great right fielder who's from Venezuela. I would sign guys from, I'd pick out a country and say, our new philosophy is Venezuela or bust, or Cuba or the basement or whatever. But don't tell me draft and development, given if you look at the facts, that is not working. It hasn't worked. 10 years is not a simple sample of players. That is a decade long. And look it up yourself if you don't believe me. I don't like the draft and development if you're not going to draft well, if you're not going to develop well, if those guys are going. Casey Weathers, do you remember him? He was the number 1 draft pick. We don't even know where he is. Matt Harrington, do you remember him? He wouldn't even sign with him. He didn't want to play with him. You go back to it, to the whiskey. Oh, yeah, that was great. 1 out of 23 years. I'm Woody Paige, and that's my philosophy. Draft and develop. Yep.